Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Allah tells us in Surah Al-Baqarah, وإذا سألك عبادي عني فإني قريب أجيب دعوة الداعي إذا دعان فليستجيبوا لي وليؤمنوا بي لعلهم يرشدون. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in this ayah, one of the most beautiful ayat that you'll hear when you consider the great power of Allah ta'ala, when you consider that this is the creator of the heavens and the earth. This is the one in whose hands we're in absolute complete control and vulnerability and everything. And yet these ayahs put us at ease, not only at ease, at confidence, at happiness, in a situation where we feel like we're glad that Allah is the one in control and He's the one who's judging, right? And we start trusting everything that He says, because Allah calls Himself Ni'mal Mujib. Ni'mal Mujib. You'll see this ayah, that what a blessed one to respond, a good one to respond. Now you might think to yourself, isn't everyone who responds good, right? Anyone who responds to your call, no, not necessarily. And when He says this, He says that because He's looking out for your true interest. Not everyone who answers you is looking for your true interest. If someone just gave you everything you wanted, okay, you destroy yourself, okay? A parent doesn't give their kid everything they want, all right? You want to have Skittles for dinner? M&M's for breakfast? Ice cream for lunch? Every kid would want that. Rita's, right? Italian ice? Everyone would want that. But Ni'mal Mujib, a good responder, is someone who looks out for your interest. And this is what Allah Ta'ala does. And anytime that we don't get something, some of the Salihin and the Awliya used to say that, I'm happier when my dua is not answered, because it means that Allah deemed and looked at my matter and deemed it worthy, that it deemed that it was bad for me. Right? وَيَدْعُ الْإِنسَانُ بِالشَّرِّ دُعَاءَهُ بِالْخَيْرِ. The human being, al-insan, calls وَيَدْعُ الْإِنسَانُ بِالشَّرِّ, for the evil, right? Du'a'ahu bil khair, which that dua which he thinks is good. Okay, so you ask for something that you don't know that long term down the road, this is really bad for you. It's not good for you. I don't know if this computer is lagging a little bit. Maybe the stream might be. The only reason the stream's lagging is that the battery is only on 13%. It's been a busy day, so the computer's been used a lot and unplugged for a while. So the only reason that there's a bit of a lag is that until the this is for the stream, that the battery goes up a little bit more than 13%. He says, I listen to the prayer of every supplicant when he calls upon it. Ujibu da'wat ad-da'i idha da'an. This ayah also refers us to and pulls us out of a theological quandary that has in fact misguided some people in Islam, but many people in Christianity, right? And it's a common thread. Abe, you need to be down here. Hey. Let him come down. Guys, hold on a second. I'm having some electrical situation happening here. Okay. All right, we'll just continue until the technician needs to come down here. So this theological quandary is that just because prayers are answered does not necessarily mean you're correct about other matters of theology. It's a simple equation, simple question here, right? Just because your prayers are answered, many people make that leap, all right? So a priest told me, say this prayer. I said the prayer, and my son was cured of cancer. Don't make a leap now, all right? What is it? There's something in that prayer that was accepted. Other things may have been rejected. Okay, so our concept of divine justice is that Allah Ta'ala answers people's prayers. Okay, He answers desperate, sincere prayers. Why? Is it out of confirmation? No. It's not out of confirmation. So that's the leap that people are making. We don't deny that people of different religions, they get their prayers answered. They pray to God, they get their prayers answered. Okay? But it's the leap. What is the nature of this response? Okay? We have to have a little bit of a depth here. Is the indicator of this response confirmation of what you're upon? No, not at all. Not at all. He may be responding out of mercy, because rahmah, there are two types of mercies. There's one mercy that is solely for the mu'mineen. Hey, how are you? How's it going? Come on in. Yeah. 60-second timeout. No problem. There's an answering out of confirmation. There's answer out of mercy. The two types of mercy that Allah Ta'ala has for people is the rahmah for all creation. For example, just bringing them into existence is an act of rahmah. Now that He's brought us into existence, He sustains our existence. Okay? And don't you see that Iblis's existence is sustained? Right? That's the type of, that there's a rahmah that comes over all things. And that's from the name Ar-Rahman. Then there's another type of rahmah, more distinct than that is specific to those who believe in Him properly. And that is from mushtaq, deriving from His name Ar-Rahim. This is why Allah says, Bil-mu'minina ra'ufum rahim. For the believers, He's Ra'uf Ar-Rahim. When many of the Arabic scholars say that when you put the object of a verb first before the verb, that indicates exclusivity. So if you were to say, unto you we worship, it indicates we worship only you. Whereas if you say, I worship you, it doesn't exclude that you also worship other gods. Okay? It doesn't exclude that. So this is an important feature to realize and to recognize, that just because by putting the object first in a sentence in the Arabic language, that it indicates exclusivity according to the bulk of Arabic grammar language scholars. So Rahman, the mercy that comes from His attribute of Ar-Rahman, is for everyone. So including answering of their prayers. So if you were driving along and you see your arch enemy dying in the street, right, and he's calling on you, call 911. I think 99.999% of the human population would look at him, see bleeding down his face, he's just been killed in an accident, and you have the chance to save his life, and you're the only one on the road. Most people are going to call 911 and help the guy. You answered him, didn't you? Right? You answered him. So in that respect, that istijaba of da'wah, or ijaba to da'wah, is out of mercy. You help that guy out of kindness, mercy, basic decency, not because we have no problems anymore. Okay? So now if he goes to the hospital and he starts publicly saying, you know what, well, we have no more problems anymore, everything is resolved between us, you're like, that's not true. I took you to the hospital out of common decency, not for any other reason. Okay? So in this respect, this ayah removes us from a common quandary of theology that just because your prayers are answered means you're on the right theology and the right belief about God. There's another question here. Just because a session of religion feels good, or a practice of the religion feels good, does not necessarily mean it's the right religion or the right strand of religion. Okay? So if I sit here reading a book on theology, let's say I'm reading it out loud, and there are there could be 20 mistakes in here, but I finish it and I feel so good, right? Why? Because there is also truth in it. And there's me saying the name of Allah over and over. And any time that you say the name of Allah, just saying the name of Allah Ta'ala brings sakina into the people's hearts. And this is why Allah says in the Quran itself, it says that there were churches and temples in which Allah's name is mentioned, would be destroyed. If justice wasn't happening on the earth and tyrants weren't stopped, then temples, masajid, bi'a wa sawami' wa bi'un wa salawat wa masajidu yudhkaru fiha ismullahi kathira. Right? That all of these things, temples and churches and monasteries and mosques in which Allah's name is mentioned, would all be destroyed. All right? Would all be. And so what did Allah mention about what is the truth and what is the thing that's feeding people even in temples of Judaism and Christianity, there's still something, there is some benefit in it. Doesn't mean they're correct. The benefit is that at least you're saying God's name. We in Islam, we separate between benefit and truth. You may be not only false, enemy of God. I mean, we say that about the claim of Son of God, right? The heavens and the earth, the heavens want to split asunder, and the mountain wants to crack down, that they hear that human beings said God has a son. And Allah says, human beings, you insult me. Okay, you insult me. How does a human being curse you and insult God? By saying he has a son. Okay? And so, things can be that bad. Doesn't necessarily mean that there's no benefit in it. All right? Just like if I put you a dinner out and all the food is poison, and yet I put a glass of water there, okay? The water is beneficial. We do insaf, and Allah Ta'ala in the Quran, He does insaf. Insaf is separating false from truth, even with our enemy, and that's what the word insaf is. And in the opposite, the ignorant and the sectarian approach of things is that everything, we just shut out everything. The person who is on the truth is a munsif, and the word munsif means someone who says the truth. So when people are going to churches, going to synagogues, and they're claiming benefit, and when people, even inside of different Islamic groups that are maybe partially wrong, maybe really wrong, maybe there's really bad things going on, and they say, Wallah, I'm benefiting so much, it doesn't necessarily mean 100% of what you're doing is correct. There could be tons of mistakes. So what's my point here? The point here is that truth and accuracy is not always determined by feelings and how it makes you feel. It's partially the side of it, but it's not fully, not at all, fully the side of it. So we have to take that into consideration and recognize that feeling is part of it, but not the whole thing. And what is it? We're a people of brains and intellect, logic, Arabic language, combined. We know what the words of the Quran and Hadith mean, and there's a logic to understanding them, which we call usul, and that's how we get the truth. And then the ulama will agree on whatever they come to conclusions, broad, based, hundreds of thousands over centuries. That's what we're going to consider to be the truth. Okay, so it's not going to be just by feelings, and it's not going to be just because my prayer was answered, so therefore this must be the truth and this must be the real religion. That's not how we do things. Now, on the contrary, there is a point to be said that if you join like a religious group, and especially because this halaqah is really, geared to the converts, and it should be made clear for that if you join a religious group and you start feeling a lot of hatred, something's wrong. It could be something wrong with your understanding of what they're saying. It could be something wrong with, they may be saying a word that's true, but their attitude is a negative, hateful attitude, so they have a spiritual problem. I can come here and we could do a whole halaqah on bashing people who are talking about the Trinity, making fun of them, laughing at them. Are we actually technically wrong in what we're saying? No, we're right about what we're saying. But are we aligned with the prophetic way in our hearts? No, our hearts are way off. Because the Prophet, peace be upon him, did not spend time feasting upon the flaws of others. And this is something that's very prevalent in the refutation element of the religion. Theology is divided into a couple basic categories. Theology is that theology which is based in reason, that can be deduced by your intellect. For example, that idols are false. You don't need revelation for that. That's something you could know by your intellect, that idols did not create this world. You could know by your intellect that this world was made. Okay, it was brought into existence. At one time it didn't exist, then it did exist. Okay, you can bring that with your intellect. You can do a lot of things with your intellect, but that has a limit. So that's one category. Then there are certain things you will never be able to know from your intellect. You only know it because your intellect has told you trust the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, right? And so you take that based upon trust. Okay, how's it looking up there? Yeah, come on in. What's the problem? Still looking? Take your time. So we call the second category, we call that sam'iyat. You trust in the Quran Your intellect led you that the Prophet was not to lying, therefore I trust what he says. Okay? Your intellect tells you these hadiths were authenticated, therefore I trust these hadiths. Okay? Now you start asking yourself and saying to yourself, okay, whatever he brings, I trust it. I believe in it. So he tells me there are 7 heavens, fine. There's paradise and hell, fine. There's angels, okay, accept it. Right? Did your mind see that? Did your eye see? Did your reason tell you that? No. Did your eye see that? No. It's trust. So that's called sam'iyat, that which you hear, right? It's transmitted to you. The third thing is radd al-shubuhat, which is refutation of false beliefs. Now, they oftentimes are very smart people who truly protect the religion, okay? They refute other religions, they refute other philosophies, and they refute the misguidances and heresies inside of this Muslim community, okay? And we wouldn't say about them that they're of the community, we say they're in the community. And the Prophet ﷺ, he talks about heretical groups and referred to them as saying, fi ummati. They're in our community, they're not of the community, right? Because what they're upon is so false. But one of the flaws that happens in this type of community is that the people, they get carried away. And they actually become people who, they get so accustomed to tearing down. And they end up having a really aggressive attitude, an unpleasant attitude, and they almost get lost in that. They do get lost in that. And they end up being people who are so almost enjoy, they take joy, it's pleasure to find the flaws of another and to expose it and to trash the person. They don't even realize it. It happens so slow. And it happened to me, right? I made all these mistakes that I'm talking about, right? I fell into all these mistakes. Okay. So we separate though. What they're saying may be 100% true, but their state and the way they're going about it will be false. This is an example of insaf. Insaf is really saying that is parsing true and false, putting our pride aside, putting our egos aside, putting our whims aside, and really parse away truth from falsehood. And so when someone from another faith, they say their prayers are answered, we say fine, because God's a merciful God. But answering does not imply confirming. You have to understand that, right? Feeling good. Yes, there's truth. You are saying God's name. You're saying the word Jesus. You're saying the word Moses, right? That in the names of the prophet, in the name of God, no matter what you're saying, it's going to bring about some kind of peace into your heart, right? Because you're saying it with a reverent way, right? So it will be, but you still be an enemy of God, right? So I mean, if I'm, you could benefit from something, but without realizing you're insulting it, okay? You're truly insulting God, whereas and you don't know it. Now, you might be innocent because you're just repeating what your parents told you, and then Allah may guide that person. But the statement is an insult to God. But nonetheless, because you keep repeating God's name in a reverent fashion, you may feel like you're benefiting. So it's very important to understand that we can't just go about looking for the truth based upon those two things alone. Okay, but we can identify that there's a flaw if those two things are absent. Right? So I'm here, I'm in Islam, nothing touches my heart, there's a problem. Right? If nothing ever touches a person's heart, ever, then there's a problem with that. So maybe you find yourself another group. So this is the meaning of the very important ayah, أَمَّن يُجِيبُ وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي. Okay? لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشُدُونَ. So believe and listen to this call and believe. Why is he connect here? Whenever you look at the Quran, two things. Let's look at the connection here. He lists 3 things. Answer this call. In other words, ask your Lord, ask Allah, ask of things, right? And believe so that you may live a righteous life. Al-rushd is living a righteous life. In other words, you don't have many. Your record is clean. Right? You don't have issues. Okay. You don't have major sins. You don't have major blunders. So he says here, call and believe, right? فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي. So make the dua, but you're not done yet. It's not enough just to raise your hand in supplication. What you need to do is also believe that Allah Ta'ala will answer that dua. You have to believe that. And you have to believe that if it's not answered, don't say, oh, Allah's ignoring me. All right, he's busy. That's kufr. Say he's busy. All right, he's ignoring me because I must have done something bad. Wrong. You have to have husn al-dhan, have a good opinion of your Lord, that he may not be giving you something. Number one, what are the reasons he doesn't answer a prayer? Number one is that he loves to hear you call upon him. Number two is that it's not the time yet for you to receive it. The timing has to be right. Number three, you're actually asking for something that's not good for you. You think it's good for you, but it's bad for you. Oh, Allah, let me have a baby. Now's not the right time. What if you had a baby right now? It might not be the best result. It might cause you to have a divorce. You might end up fighting with your wife. You and your wife need to be aligned on certain things first, and that might take a couple years. Okay? Get aligned on certain ideology things, all right? How to raise kids. What do you believe? So you avoid the pitfalls of raising kids, all right? So all these types of things is how a mu'min believes in Allah when his dua is not answered, okay? And he shouldn't say Allah answered. How do you know it's not the right timing, right? How do you know it's not the right timing? So why would you attribute it that what you're asking for is bad? You don't know that. Don't even go there. Just say it's not the right time. It's gonna come. It's gonna come. That's really what having faith means. Okay, it's gonna come. Why ever look at the negative? I love Michael Jordan saying, "I never lost a game. I just ran out of time." Right? So it's gonna come. It's just a matter of time. Right? So take that attitude with Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. Now, in the nature of du'a, we must always qualify our du'a. How? By saying two things. Number one, if it's good for my deen and dunya. And number two, with gentleness and ease and benefit. Okay? You don't want to say, oh Allah, grant me, let's say, what do you want? Grant me money. I need money. Oh Allah, I truly need to pay my kids' college tuition. I need $1 million in the next 4 years because I have 5 kids. They're all going to be going between high school tuition and college tuition in the next 5 years, and I need $1 million. Be careful. You have to say, number one, if it's good for my deen and dunya. Number two, fi khair wa lutf wa afiyah, in goodness and gentleness and benefit. Why? You can get $1 million because you get hit crossing the road. You're paralyzed. You got $10 million, but you don't have legs. You got what you wanted. Be careful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes us by the words we utter. So learn how to make dua properly. And don't say, no, Allah should understand. No. Okay? Words that you utter are important. Okay? Because if Allah Ta'ala treated us and exited the realm of words, then what if a human being does that to you? And says, hey, I'll be there at 5 o'clock tomorrow. All right, let me cancel all my plans. Right, 5 o'clock comes, 7 o'clock he shows up. What happened at 5 o'clock? I canceled all my plans. Oh, come on, man. It's 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock, right? Wait, you don't want people to treat you like that. So Allah Ta'ala looks at words that you utter. So utter them very cautiously, deliberately, and carefully. All right? And therefore, you have to learn how to make dua. That's why this class is very important. This subject is very important. We have to learn the right way to make dua. If a person does this, makes dua often with intensity and desperation and believes firmly that Allah will answer that dua, this is one of the best ways to grow their iman. Their iman will, bi'idhnillah ta'ala, grow. It's a guarantee. Okay? The best way to grow your iman is to make dua and to believe that Allah answers, and not to limit the power of Allah Ta'ala by what you think and what you see. You look around the political situation, the financial situation, the worldly situation, my family situation. This is impossible. So what did you do? You have outweighed what you believe is going to happen, what your analysis, over the power of Allah, the qudra. Big problem, right? Not the right way to go. What's greater, Allah's qudra or the situation of the world? Who created the situation of the world? So you're saying he's trapped by his own creations? Not the case, right? So anybody who goes this path of dua and firmly believing in the answer of that dua, that person's iman will grow. Okay? Now, you're going to need other things, but your iman will grow. If a person's iman grows, they will live a righteous life. And again, the righteous life is that life that is free from the major blunders of heresy and sins. That's called the irshad or the rushd. Okay. So let's see what we have here. That's a good short little halaqah. And let's see if we have any questions, and if we'll go on any longer. We could. But let's see what's going on here. Yuzi Productions. Salam, much love from the UK. Allahu Akbar. Feels good. I remember as a kid when learning about other religions, particularly Hinduism, how depending on the locality, they'd shape, form the idols differently depending on the local customs. Yeah, made sense as a kid, as it's like wearing clothes depending on the climate. But as an adult, I realized how absurd that idea of forming a god to your custom is. Yeah, I mean, idolatry is one of those things. All it needs is an intellect to realize that it cannot be the creator. It cannot have power. How is it the creator when you brought it into existence? Okay, how can it have any power when it cannot to protect you if it cannot defend itself? Right. So the fact that you can hit an idol and it knock it over, it cannot defend itself. So how can it defend you? Same exact refutation we use for evolution and the idea of natural selection. You're claiming that it has will and it has knowledge and it can give life. Okay, but it itself is not alive, but yet you're saying it gives life. How does this happen? Evolution and natural selection give hearing to creatures. They give and lend seeing to creatures, but it itself does not hear and see. Okay, it allows creatures to communicate and procreate, but it itself does not speak. Okay, it can. So it gives all things that it itself does not possess. And so the word natural selection, the concept of evolution, in that respect, okay, insofar as that's the case, it itself becomes an abstract idol. It's equally an idol, but it's just in the form of an idea and a theory, as opposed to now if you say that this and this happened, fine, say what happened, no problem. But now that you're attributing life-giving forces, okay, to something, a thing that itself does not possess life, that's nonsensical. That's nonsensical. Okay. Saliha M says, how does one teach children etiquettes of dua? Just watch a video like this. Maybe they could watch it. I try to keep the language very simple and PG, but teach them the importance of dua. The best way is at every turn. If they need something, did you make dua? Did you ask Allah? No, wait. Do you believe that Allah Ta'ala possesses the power to bring this matter to fruition? Yes or no? Yes. Okay, if yes, then act like yes. Don't say yes and then act like no. Say yes and act like yes. Okay? Ahmad Zarruq's mother used to teach him when he was a child that when they wanted food, they were hungry, she would buy the food and then she would hide it somewhere. And then she would say, what do you want to eat? You want to eat this? Yes. Okay, let's make dua that Allah brings it. And then they would say, okay, now let's look in the house, right? And they would, find it. And then he would say, my dua was answered, just as a little kid. But what he did is he starts believing Allah answers dua, right? And we should believe that. And so it's important as well for us as parents to be flexible to them. Because if we constantly put up doors of no, then they will start to believe maybe that's reality, that anything I want doesn't happen. But if you actually do come around to giving them what they want, not always at the right, not instantaneously, not always without conditions, then, because that's dangerous too, then they'll come to realize generosity is part of life, right? That's what they'll believe, that generosity is part of existence. Like that's my experience in life. That my authorities, my parents, are generous, right? Likewise, Allah is generous. So generosity exists. That's how you show them generosity and mercy exists, by you being generous and merciful. However, like I said, the harm is nothing has to come right away, and nothing has to come without unconditionally, right? And if you look at Allah Ta'ala, even dua has conditions, and we're going to get to that eventually. Okay. Conditions basically being food, clothes has to be halal, right? Wealth has to be lawful and pure, right? So we should do a lot of dua. We should also realize that ruqya is a type of dua. Ruqya is when you place your hand on a pain in the body and recite Quran. That's a type of dua. Anisa says, are our du'as accepted when we have low iman and end up saying it without too much thought as if we're on autopilot mode? We do not consider that du'a. Because the Prophet ﷺ told the story of Sayyidina Musa ﷺ. Sayyidina Musa, a man came to him and said, I have such and such a problem. Tell me words that I can ask Allah. Give me the exact words to say. He went back sometime later and he said, Allah said to me, I said to Musa, you speak to Allah. He said, say such and such and such and such. The man said it, nothing happened. Again, he said the same thing. And Sayyidina Musa went back to Allah, and Allah said to him, say the same exact words, same dua. Just like we learn du'as, right? So he went back to him and he said the same thing. And then he said, it's not working. A third time. So Sayyidina Musa said, oh Allah, is there something else? He keeps calling on you, but he's not getting the answer. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him, he calls on me with his tongue while his heart is with his sheep. Tell him if he called on me with his heart once, he would have gotten a response. And so that's the key. That's the key. Is that your heart truly has to be asking Allah. You have to almost be imagining you're at the throne of Allah, holding on to dear life and asking in that fashion. That's the strongest, right? You have to envision yourself that I'm standing right in front of Allah, right before Allah Ta'ala, and asking Him directly, right? Knowing He's the creator, knowing that I'm the creation, I'm in need. And sometimes dua is not just need. Wants, right? Wants. Allah is not only there, He's 911, right? For only when I'm dying, I call. No, I want something. Prophet ﷺ said, pray istikhara prayer, even for the laces of your sandals, right? The strap of your sandal. Okay? So everything, even mundane wants and desires. Sayyidina Ibrahim once said, had his dinner very late one day, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked him, well, Ibrahim, why are you having your dinner so late today? You don't usually have dinner at this time. He said, I could not find anyone to loan me any food. I didn't have any food, and I went from home to home and home. Nobody's loaning me anything. So he said, and then he said, finally, I found someone to give me some food. He said, and what about me? You did not ask me, right? And then Ibrahim alayhi salam said, Allah, should I ask you for food? Like for dinner? He said, ask me even if you need more salt. Okay? So dua is not just for major things. It's also for minor things. It's also for mundane things. But it's not always going to be desperation. You're not going to go crying and weeping because you need sandal straps. Right? That's not realistic. It's not how anyone lives. But you are going to close your eyes and know in your heart that you are right in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, asking Him for your need and desire. Okay? And once that is truly a sincere connection, even if it's not with desperation, but it's a sincere connection between you and Allah ta'ala, that's it. You should expect an answer. That's dua. Right? What's the name of the book? It's an old book. It's out of print, but inshallah I'm going to be sharing it with you, that I received. It's called Dua Shield of the Believers by a modern scholar who passed away, and he just collected and gathered a number of ad'iyah, which I believe that he basically summarized Imam an-Nawawi's book of Adhkar, and he added a couple chapters from himself to help us out with dua. It's a beautiful book, so we'll read from it from time to time. I think that we should read from it because it's a beautiful subject, and it's the subject that I believe that the bulk of our religious spiritual development, it's really that simple. It's dua, right? It's that simple. I mean, many people complicate things, right? They really, really complicate things, and to me, it shouldn't be that complicated. It's right aqidah, right fiqh, ton of dua, and when I look at many of the quote unquote poor people that are so blessed, they're so full of barakah. Like I see them, and they're so downtrodden in their life outwardly, but if you have a problem, you go to them for dua, and just by being nice to them, your problems are resolved, right? Alleviated. Your hardships are alleviated. These people, I don't